Welcome to War Vlog. Today I'm looking at the advance on Krasnogorivka, Krasnogorivka, something like that. Just something that I got from South Front. Really, I've absolutely no idea of its significance. I chose the smaller format, as you see here, just because I just wanted to get it done. It's taken me about half an hour to do this, so usually my maps are a lot bigger and more involved, but these smaller ones quite often more enjoyable. But they're pushing north towards here. It's another big town. I mean, they're going from town to town, and they're big nuts to crack. I'm just going to play it. I keep talking, and it just gets not what I really want to be doing. And I think I've not done this quite as I wanted. So I'm just going to go in and do the setup again. So I've sort of done what I wanted to do there. Basically, that's interesting because I've just started a new game. I just wanted to put more artillery. The Ukrainians have got 2 lots. The Russians have 3 lots. I was reading something today that they outnumber them like 7 to 10 to 1. Between 7 and 10 to 1. Etc, etc. So the thing is, what I like about this scenario is that there's not a lot of units. This is what I'm sort of trying to sort of emulate to some extent more and more, because they're not using a lot of units anywhere. But what I have done on here, I've put this in here to represent the 3-ton bombs. I'm not sure whether they got guided bombs in yet, but just sort of a lot more heavy bombing of particular areas. So basically the Russians have got to get through this, and they just have some irregulars down here. Maybe they don't have the numbers to do it quite yet, but let's just see what this heavy bomber does, say, on this square. Heretics only believe in squares. Let's see. 0.5. I was thinking actually of doing some coding, but I'm not sure I even know how to code anymore. I maybe should. Yeah, that's sort of not really reflecting. I thought they'd be like nuclear bombs, but maybe that's just a bad roll. So let's see what else we've got. Well, we've got artillery. You've got to remember they are in a town, and so what's happening now, this town, and again, I still haven't done this, but it's sort of something I'd like to do, thinking about doing, is putting in a factor to actually, turn settlements into ruins, making them slightly different. So nothing is particularly massive. 2.2, 1.7, all very recoverable. So I don't think we're actually going to bother well, I don't think we're actually really going to bother. So this is quite risky. Let's stump up the attack there. So, well, I don't know what I was talking about now. I think I was going to say I don't think I'm going to bother attacking. But I think it's useful to sort of bear in mind, because without the successful air attacks and drone strikes, etc., they're not going to move through this place, which is called Krasnogorivka. They're not going to do that. We can't attack that. I mean, I could attack that and I think I'd lose. It's interesting, really, because sometimes the odds aren't that bad, but usually I don't think two units will cut the mustard, because they're in a built-up area. But as soon as they get knocked out of the way, that'll be something else. So, interesting first turn. And I like these smaller games. I always like them because it's sort of, you can actually, they're manageable from a thinking perspective. I should do more of them. There is actually the other one, George Givka, and also the Mayana one. And I keep making notes of things to do. There was also a big thing in somewhere else in the world, in I don't know, South America somewhere, where they're all cannibals eating each other. And I thought, oh, I gotta do that. And no, I didn't. I'm just so tired all the time, really. But that's irrelevant, really. This is like easy. So now they could counterattack here, but I think we want to do everything we can to recover these units. But these aren't spent at all. We could counterattack these engineers. I did want to put some robotic engineers or robotic mine laying, because I've seen that they're doing that. We've got obviously more units here. We've got this down here. I think basically what we really want to do is we possibly want to take this unit out, but I think we can punch him back out that way. Let's just use artillery on here. And drones. I should really I just realised something I can do. His depression is 0.866666667. I can actually call that. That's probably because it's a variable character in the database. I'm doing this recently, changing things to what's called decimal. Decimal. And you set it to 2 decimal points, and you don't have to worry about any of this extra rounding up or anything, which I've been doing for years. But that's something else. We've used everything up. We've done virtually nothing against that. So we've been blowing each other up without much effect. But this is something that I think will have an effect. Yes. So we don't have to recover with those. We push these engineers back. They won't be demining next turn, and they'll have to recover because they've got 3 depressions. So all in all, we've got a very sort of reportable situation here, which is something that I always long for. I always try to achieve something that you can sort of, well, does this reflect, what's happening? And yeah, it could do. I mean, they're more vulnerable outside, but the Ukrainians don't have as much to hit them with. They're heavily defended in there, but which gave them a lot of protection. And this hex is probably, on its way to becoming a ruin. If I had the sort of mechanics in there to reflect, how much bombing essentially and artillery fire it can take before it becomes a ruin. I think I actually started, or at least started thinking about doing that, because basically each sort of place would have sort of a hit rate. But it just adds to the complication. I mean, basically this whole place will become a ruin eventually. So that's that. We don't really need to move much about here, although we could. The thing is, we've got some engineers here, so what do we want to do with those engineers? I think what we're going to do with them, to be quite honest. Oh, I didn't want to do that. Why did I do that? Oh no, that's what I wanted to do. Let's lay some mines in there. Let's see. Oh, he can move. So we'll put him in there. 1, 2, 3. I knew I'd messed up. Because I sort of messed up earlier on, because what I did, I put all the Russians in here and it had to be Ukrainians, so I moved them out And I thought, hang on, I missed one. No, I must have done it right because it looks as though they're all right. But obviously, there he is there. He's, he's not supposed to be there. I'm going to have to just move that from 5N to 5R. 1 minute. When I say move it, what I meant was move it in the game. I can't move it in this situation. It's stuck there. But what I'll do is go on to the next turn, and the Russians will move their unit out. So that solves that. But we've got more units. Look, we've got some engineers and got 2 more irregular units. Now they've reinforced that, so it's all becoming quite fiddly. But let's see what these 3-ton bombs do. 3 tons. Oh, they're just sort of like, you know, what? Just a bit of flack. See, this artillery is doing more damage than the 3-ton bombs. Right. 5.1, 1.9, 0.85. Now they will have to do morale checks. But no, they held their ground. 7.9, 2.6, 1.95. Perhaps this will be better. We can take this one because he won't be able to attack and not recover, so to speak. We'll pull these guys back and we'll sort of move this way, preparing. Now the Ukrainians have some reinforcements, so obviously they're recovering in there a little bit, but they've got these guys. Right, well, what do we want to do? So now we're in the position where we can either attack these guys who are the frontal assault, so to speak, or try to repel these engineers because they'll break through in that minefield, and I think that it's going to be more critical. We can actually bring these guys, possibly, but we don't really. We could possibly bring someone around here and do a counter-attack. Let's use some artillery first, because one of the engineers has already taken a hit. So here what we're dealing with is the decision to target engineering units because of their potential to affect the terrain, as opposed to these which have the potential to attack. Right, so we've got one because he did a morale check regardless because there were drones attacking them. .6. We should now be able to bring him into the open. He's in a minefield, but so we've done them. So essentially we're beating off the Russians, which is not what I thought would happen, but I think we'll see. This is why I just wanted to play it, just to sort of play it through, because things change, I think. Right, so they've now got no mine engineer capability. They did get some reinforcements, but the Ukrainians have engineers coming on as well. We're still sort of bashing our head against this hex because we want to take it out. Let's see what our 3-ton bomb does. 0.3. Let's do the artillery first, because the drones do morale checks every time. So these don't do morale checks unless they're over 5. For example, he is doing a morale check on like 37%. He's doing a morale check on 16%. No, he's not doing any morale checks. I can't actually remember how it works now. But basically, there's a situation where you only check for morale when you're over 50%. But I think when you're under a drone attack, you always check for morale. But you need to sort of roll a 90% or something, you know. Don't want to confuse things, so I'll forget that. Basically, these will definitely trigger morale checks. So we should lose 1 this turn. No. He's at 11.1, which is like 51%. Yeah, so he went. So these will have morale checks now. But you'd have to be really, really... I never update these things. So, there's a battle going on. End the turn. Right, there's no more engineers to take out. We could rotate things, although they haven't really been damaged yet. We can move him back into there. Interesting, really interesting, because at this rate, they're never going to break through. Well, I'm sort of thinking, can we do 2 attacks? But the real thing is, we need to do the attrition. But I'm thinking we could force our way through this minefield. Oh, it's the Ukrainian turn. Is it the Ukrainian turn? Oh, it is. Okay, I don't know why I didn't know that. Okay, well, what do we want to blow up? That's interesting. I tried to create a game so that Russians would win, not because I'm sort of, you know, that is in my favour, you know, but because I think basically that the Russians are just, you know, they're on the advance. There's no word of spring offensive, but this is what a spring offensive should look like. I mean, they're just taking ground, you know, heading from one place to another, and that's just because they outnumber them. But let's drone these people. But at this rate, the Ukrainians might be able to ward off the Russians, who I did intend to give superior numbers. But I think because everything is just on this thing here, this is just where it's going. And so, you know, obviously the Ukrainians can just filter reinforcements and fill that gap as required. These things will be vulnerable. These things will be protected. But so how to break that? It's not so much a stalemate, more of a bottleneck. But opening the front here won't really achieve much because we're not attacking with these. It all comes down to, you know, the the 3-ton bombs. Okay, well, it's the Russian turn now, because there's no reason to come out of here and attack, and we don't want to attack with these because we want to recover. So we've got a lot more units coming in here now, but I think we're going to have to go with plan B and force them through the minefield. Thus changing the entire 1.8, so 2 depressions, 0.4, 1.4, 1.8. Now you won't be able to attack those unless he doesn't want to recover. We have 3-ton bombs. Let's see what these do. .25. Because essentially they're going to be flanked. Lancets are not really the best thing to be using, but I guess they're targeting specific points of resistance. So they're all still there, 4.8, 2.25, 4.2. I don't think we can try a full frontal on that at all, but we've got some engineers here. That wasn't engineers. 2.2. So they're taking a lot of damage. But we're preparing for next turn. Maybe I didn't move these guys last time. Right, so now the question is, well, we're going to have to somehow protect things. Okay, so do we want to attack these stacks here or these? These are a threat now, and they don't have enough, which is sort of, you know, what you might expect for the Ukrainians. They don't have enough to do everything they want. They're doing more damage because they're in the open. They don't need 3-ton bombs when they got DJI mini drones. 0.5 damage. I think I might actually have to seriously look at that bomber thing. I think it's partly because they're in. I think I should put a rule in where bombers, you don't get a defensive bonus if you're against bombers, or I don't know. I'll have to think about it, but I'm not going to be able to really do that. And in doing so, well, he's 6, 2.9. We can't really move him. Nice to attack, but we've whittled that offensive capability away. But these will still be here. We can possibly use. We want to see they're still fairly here, but with these guys they're fresh, so we can counter attack here. We've got a fair amount. It might only be a 2 or 3 to 1. 2 to 1, and then in exchange there's some heavy battles going on there, so they lost some. But at 2 to 1 we could have hoped to repel them, but it's getting difficult. So you can almost see it's a really good game actually. I much prefer these smaller ones, and I don't know why I don't do more of them. So you've got this very particular sort of, I don't know, forms of defence where you can see this now being threatened here, and they're being forced to sort of do something like a 2 to 1. But that could have worked. You said that could have been an empty hex. They could have won. That would have been an empty hex. They would have been repelled, but that didn't happen. And then we could have pulled these through. It's not tide changing, but let's go into the Russian one now. Right, so these are well and truly hit, but we can recover them. But did they reinforce? They didn't really. Because what we could do now, well, what we can do for sure. Oh no, I put 2 mines in everything, so see the Ukrainians are too stretched now to take out those engineering units, but we can use them to demine. But there's 2. I still haven't done this, but there's 3. There's 3. That's why they were getting hit so much. So there's now 2. Okay, let's put this 3-kilogram bomb in there. So it has got to be a ruin now. But we are fighting against what you could call a prepared fortification. So what we're sort of demonstrating here, if anything, because we are assuming that the Russians will win. See, they're all 776. Is the difficulty of cracking that first prepared fortification. But I think, based on things, let's just do this, because I think we should win. And I think it'll be overkill. I could have already done this before, but we'll see. Oh no, some bloody battles on the on the edge of Krasnogorivka. Bloody battles. Could we have put more in there? Okay, so we're going to flank on this side as well. But they held. So let's see what the Russian and the Ukrainians can do now, because these are now in the open. They're weak. They lost in battle. We should be able to repel these just with 2 units. Trying my luck here, but I think we should just wipe them off the board. Yep. Right, so what we want to do here this is going to be difficult. I want to move, so what we've got in there, 2. Okay. Okay, that worked. So we're rotating these battered units out of there. Right. And well, he's fairly hurt, but there's a nice stack in there. Oh, 10, 2, 2. Let's see whether we can take this, blow this entire stack up, because they are in the minefields, which means that next turn they can exit the minefields, but they won't if they don't exist. Yep. Do we even need to bother? 3, possibly. Let's just make sure we get it done. Or do we? I think we might be getting a Ukrainian win here. I thought I had given the Russians too much, but obviously didn't really give them enough. And I did think that that 3-ton bomb would actually have an effect. I mean, it hasn't. I thought that you'd be able to sort of pretty much destroy anything in a hex. So a whole 20, that would be loads. See, what I want to do maybe is, because these are all fresh, might be able to get 2 attacks from these. Yes, we can push those back. Three to 1 and a DR. Look at that. Right. So that's left the Russians reeling. Let's get someone across. Interesting, interesting. Another rule, obviously, would be to destroy the fortifications, which I don't think can be done. Let's just look at something. What's this? What is that? I should put mouse overs on these. I thought that this was to... I think actually what this did was blow up objectives. So when I move something over that, I'd have to look that up. I can't remember anything. So they can say mad Vlad. He's forcing his units in a desperate move through the minefields. Let's go this way. Okay. Let's leave those to recover. So what do we want to use our artillery and things on? Because we could wipe this stack out. But they are defended because they're in urban. And it's only light urban. Let's see what the bomber does out of their defences. At least the bomber did something. Okay, let's take in some units out. Okay. Right. Yep. Oh, he's a bit fresh out there. I think the Ukrainians are going to win. I will have to balance it up because they're not supposed to win. But I think it represents, you know, some of the difficulties. I mean, we could say, oh, maybe they shouldn't have had prepared defences because they haven't really had the time to prepare them. But essentially, there's some kind of sort of failure on the sort of the design setup because it was supposed to be sort of something that would be a hard grudge, a hard slog, not impenetrable. But then again, I think if you were to play it again, having, you know, modelled it once, you might get a different result. Possibly, you know, deciding to not go up against this at all and to focus everything on cleaning some minefields out in a situation where they can't actually counterattack. I might actually play it again immediately afterwards. It's getting a bit late, but do we want one or two? Let's just try our luck. Yes, and here. Yes. Oh, look at that. Complete repulse. Well, let's bring some of these guys down. He's fresh. Well, we don't really have to worry about anything coming from this flank now. Let's just move him over here, just to give us something on this side. Right, well, they're in the city. I mean, I consciously didn't give the Russians too much because I didn't want it to be a complete walkover. But you know, I mean, on the basis that they've got like 7 to 10 to 1 odds on, you know, in certain factors like artillery. Well, the Russians have 3 artillery units, the Ukrainians have 2. That's not 7 to 10 not to 1. So, you know, I could probably give them another 2, and that will make a bit of a difference. A few more units, etc., etc. But I think it's been definitely an interesting game. But I think it also represents the sort of the significance of defensive, because the Ukrainians had less, and I think the Russians really should just gone through here and come around. I think we should be able to beat him there, actually. Two to 1. Okay. I don't think the Ukrainians can lose now. They can even go on the counter. They can even start counter-attacking. Right, so what can we do over here? Bearing in mind we need 4 units to get that one out. That's interesting. So they're regrouping. Maybe we can encourage these guys to go home. Yep. These are fresh. They're all going to regroup. They recover quite well under the new rules. There's 2 in there. So a large part of it is actually destroying units. Like that. They're in the open. The Russians are continuing to get reinforcements. So what are they going to do now? See, he's starting to recover. We should actually be able to push them out. Let's see what the 3-ton bomb does over here. 2.4 against the engineers. Yeah, I think I really would like to push through that. So right, well, we're not going to clear everything out of there, but we can demine. Oh, it's a 2. See, we've done that earlier. So now the Russians have had a breakthrough, look. Look, there's a big hole. Taking a chance here, but yes. But he hasn't been peppered up, so that's going to be like a 1-to-1 even if that. But we've now got a presence in there, We've only got 10 minutes left. See, it's 2.6. They're regrouping. Regenerating like zombies. Okay. So we've got problems now. Because it's going to be very hard to move any of these things out. This is really quite interesting because I think we're going to have to just give these hexes up and move to attack here. And I'm inclined to use my engineers to lay mines. So there's mines there now, so you can't just come up through here. I mean, obviously it's not ideal. So now what we've really got to do, we're going to need 4 against 1, but we've got artillery. So he's at 2.8. Right, so we've got 4 to 1 there, but let's get some artillery. Let's do 1 artillery on each. And 2 drones on each. 2.8. And we've got 30% on flank. Oh, 4 to 1 in an exchange. So the Russians have a bit of luck for a change. And here, oh, we don't want to do that yet. Don't want to do that yet. Because we've got to do some maneuvers first. But, to be quite honest, that sort of messed up a lot of the other stuff. We should win this one. We didn't win the other one. We got more. Yes, we've got that one. But we can't do any more attacks. We've gained a city hex back. And we're on the objective. Okay. There's nothing else we can do. Right, so what opportunities does that give the Russians? Well, he's fresh. There's a nice big stack there. That would be very tempting. We routed 1 unit. think this is what they call a gathering. I got 0, 0, 0. Okay. I don't want to risk that, but we've definitely got a breakthrough here. But only 4 minutes left. I'm going to leave it at that. So 3 minutes just to sort of recap. I think it's sort of, it didn't have the balance that I intended it to have. But I think even so, it's still, you know, from a point of view of a game, there's still sort of plenty of opportunity to sort of learn or to figure out, you know, one thing or another. For example, I mean, we spent a lot of time battling against this, and if we'd done this earlier on, because there were only 2 mines in there, you know, when we were adjacent, they could counterattack and stay in their fortifications. But here, there's not much they could do. They could do, you know, artillery and drones, but you know, it was the actual, you know, kinetic attack, the assault, that actually did the damage. You know, so when they were here and here, you know, they did the artillery and drones, and then they would push them back with like 2, 3, 4 to 1 odds. And here, same thing over here as well. We could have come through here and here. So it'd be interesting to see how the Russians actually do try to do that, and whether there's anything, you know, to be learned from that. Whether I go back, because I think I will, but I don't know really how much. I gave the Russians more, but not overwhelmingly more. But what I might do is give them an extra artillery piece, because I think that'll make a bit of difference. And I think I'll give them probably about 4 or 5 more ground units coming in the reinforcements, so that maybe 1 extra return for 5 turns to give them, you know, a bit more of an edge. But even as it stands at the moment, I think that the Russians could possibly still win, mainly because once this stack goes, you need 4 to 1 against any one unit. They're getting fresh units. There's still 4 more turns. Turn 13, you know, the Russians get, you know, 2 more units. I think they get like, I mean, they might get 2, 1, 2, 2. So 10, 11, 12, 13, you know, so they might get another 6 units, whereas the Ukrainians really don't. I think that's pretty much the last of what they get. You'd have to look at the sort of schedule order of battle. But, you know, they need, you know, that sort of stack is probably going to be wiped out next turn if they don't move it. And I'm not sure whether they can or not now. We're not doing their movement.